Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and the rest of the senators. Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to voice our concerns. My name is Jennifer Birchavine. I am a very proud Rhode Island public school educator. I've been teaching in the state of Rhode Island for 22 years and counting. I've taught in several different schools, in several different types of communities. I started my career in an urban setting. I'm currently in a suburban setting. I'm also a mom of a high school student and a first grader. I'm here to speak about the Safe School Act. I very firmly believe that there is no justifiable reason, in my opinion, for guns to be allowed on school property beyond those that are held by our police officers and peace officers. During my first year as a teacher, I was chaperoning a school dance. I was 24 years old. I had never actually been up close to a gun, let alone heard one fire. I'd never been inside a police department. At that dance, a fight broke out. Guns were drawn, shots were fired. It was the first time that a gun was discharged within a school building in the state of Rhode Island. This was 1996, I believe. Miraculously, no students were physically injured that night, and I stress physically. That evening, as I stood in the dark parking lot of the high school I was a teacher at, waiting for parents to come, waiting to find out if they had captured the shooter. There was a high-speed pursuit down 95. I had a young man come up to me, a very large, burly, football kind of guy, with tears streaming down his cheeks. And he came up to me and said, "Miss B, how could this happen in our school?" I had no answer for that child as I kind of looked up at him. On the following Monday, many students and many staff were very anxious walking back into our school. We were still questioning how a person with a gun was allowed to walk into our school, how that happened. And in the 20 years since that night, I have had many, teachers often call them day afters. The day after there's a tragedy, whether it's within our school community or on the outside, we come back the day after and our students look to us. They look to us to try and make sense of a world that doesn't always make sense. And it has not gotten any easier, and it just happens more frequently now. And never in any of these conversations has someone suggested that more guns are going to be the answer. When I asked my own son, who is a junior at the school I teach at, if he thought that it would be a good idea to continue to allow guns on school property by those licensed, and we talked about, what the parameters would be, he immediately and emphatically replied no. I asked him for his reason, and he simply answered, "It's school, Mom." I agree with him. A learning environment, I think Senator Miller said it earlier, that kids can't learn if they're afraid. A learning environment must be a safe place to allow students to take risks emotionally and intellectually, and guns are not going to aid that learning environment. Earlier today, I was speaking with a senior at my high school. This young man could be described as the face of our high school. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. He might have actually gotten the superlative of best all around or some such thing. And he shared with me that as much as he's loved being a high school student and as much as he loves our school, he can't wait to get out. And those were his exact words. Not graduate, not move on, get out. And initially, my first thought is most teenagers by the end of high school are kind of ready to move on, kind of stretch their wings. But he wasn't talking about that. He said he no longer felt that schools were safe, that on a regular daily basis, he walks into school questioning if today could be the day that something bad could happen. My school was, just yesterday, we were dealing with threats. We had extra police presence on our school property. It's imperative that we all work together to do what we can to keep our students safe. Passing the Safe Schools Act is just one piece of this, just one step in making certain that I know myself, I can look at my students in the face, I can look at my son and say that we've done our best, we've tried our best to keep them safe. I was pleased to hear earlier Treasurer Magaziner came in and talked about more money being available for school safety. The Sandy Hook Promise, there are programs out there. Unfortunately, we don't all know about them, but the bigger thing is making certain that we're evaluating our schools individually as districts because they have different security needs. Those need to be looked at and they need to be addressed and plans need to be made in place and the kids do need to be a part of that conversation. The last thing, and this wasn't in my original plan, but super quick, is just the cultural shift regarding social emotional health. There's been a lot of conversation. I've been here all afternoon and listening to a lot of very intelligent, very passionate people talk about the need for mental health. And it needs to go all the way down to our elementary schools. And this is bigger scope than what is facing you, the choices that you are making. But looking at social emotional health and wellness and making that part of how we're raising our children so that they find better ways to express their anger and frustration than picking up a weapon, whether it's an AR-15 or a butter knife. But I thank you for the opportunity, and I really hope you'll consider all of the voices of the people who are in the schools. Thank you.